at the public relations advantages of the circular economy. What is circular economy? What is green economy? I have with me juggernauts who will help to unpack what we mean by circular economy. I have to my right the managing director of Acapulco Global Investments, Dr. Valentine Okone. Dr. Valentine Okone, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, dear.
And also with us is the state coordinator of Nigeria, Mr. Larry Jimo.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, so let's start this way. Dr. Okone, please tell us, what is circular economy? What is green economy? What are the public relations advantages to viewers who are looking at us?
Yes, circular economy is a concept that involves some countries before now applying them, but it's a concept that also evolves now that to minimize waste.
Okay.
To minimize waste from the company. Every processing and manufacturing company is expected that their waste should be minimized. And how do you minimize the waste? That takes us to sustainability. So sustainability is a mission towards keeping the environment clean.
Okay.
So you now say developmental sustainability,
right,
or sustainability development.
Okay.
So all these are now process of achieving that sustainability.
Okay. Okay. So what is waste? Can you just identify for us so that we can know what constitutes waste?
We have
how has it been affecting us?
Yeah, we have waste in different categories and categories. There are organic waste. There are solid waste. Maybe too there are gaseous waste. And all this, and there are liquid waste. All this all together is a function or come out from, they all come out from
right,
as byproducts of a process.
Right.
Spurred by anthropogenic activities, either from the municipal angle or industrial angle. So the processes involve that, take for instance a manufacturing company whose end product is to produce maybe a noodle. Of course, there's going to be some chips that will be waste. So these chips, where do they go to at the end of the day? Are you going to throw them away? Then the sachets in which you use in packaging this, where will they go at the end user, from the end user end? So the chips, of course, can be looked into as raw material for livestock.
So these are the ways we can have.
So all this will go around. You can also reuse.
We'll come to that. Mr. Jimo, you are the coordinator for Nestle in Ogun State. So what do you understand? How can we help us to understand circular economy? And what is your role in enforcing it?
Circular economy is an economic system that phases out waste. And it ensures that materials are kept in use for as long as possible. It promotes sustainability. It makes sure that waste are minimized when production takes place. So the way it is that it's a deviation from the old norm, which is linear economy. This time around you have a process whereby right from the design stage, right from the conception stage of a product, you make emphasis on the sustainability of that product, because in the process of designing you have to ensure that what you are going to produce has a circular economy imprint from the beginning. It has to be recyclable. It has to have you have to make sure that the waste are minimal. You don't generate too much waste. You have to make sure that your production process, make sure that through the production process there's no waste, because in the norms before now, what you used to have is you produce, you use, you dump. But now what you have is from the design stage, you design, you use, you reuse, you remake, and then you reuse again, so that at the end of the day waste generation is very, very minimal. So that's just the overview of what circular economy is all about. And then in the agency here, we have been trying to, you see, the agency has a tool, EPR, tenant producer responsibility. That's a legal tool that is empowering facilities, industry, to key into the circular economy, to make sure that all your activities are in conformity with the EPR guidelines, so that at the end of the day, waste generation will be minimized.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Okone, the citizens generally, they don't know, they just take their pure water, they dump the sachet, finish their bottle, dump it up. What are the effects of this on the environment?
So the effects of this environment are quite enormous. Some of this will leach into the environment, into the surface water, or the underground water.
What is leach? Leach is a
leach is a wash.
Okay.
Maybe you drop something on the ground, and maybe when it rains, the water drops into it, and begin to wash away or seeps into the groundwater. And of course, the soil you see here, there's underground water at the bottom. So by the time, and all those have a way of connecting to the sea at its own level, or even our boreholes. Okay. So to avoid this kind of problems, it's expected that advocacy should be at its prime. Then that is one. Two, by the time we also drop all those solid contaminants or solid waste into the environment, flood can take it and block the water bodies or waterways. So again, that also would also cause its own enormity of problems, because by the time the water bodies are blocked, you begin to see things like growth of eutrophication, water ascent, so on the water body. And by the time this grows for a very long time, the aquatic life on the zone will be affected, because the oxygen they will be demanding will not be there. Some of them will be dying, and as they are dying, they become manure. That is why you now see some grasses growing on top of some water bodies, because the oxygen on those water bodies are already getting depleted. So the animals inside, some are dying, some are suffocating, some are trying to survive. So these are these. And of course, by the time the aquatic life are depleted, where is the source of protein? So that is that. Then again, the quantity of waste, if it's also so enormous on the water body, you also see that water transportation becomes so difficult. I was traveling to Bonny from Port Harcourt sometime last year, and the water body between Port Harcourt and Bonny, so much plastics, so enormous that you can't even quantify it. So again, you see the flying boats trying to meander and all that. So to avoid any collision on the water body. So all these are norms that are supposed to be driven off by extensive advocacy.
Okay, Mr. Jimo, the effect of plastic, on the citizens, what are the dangerous effects that it is having on us? Because we understand that fishes now consume plastic, and that is also threatening our health.
Well, you said it all. Fishes consume plastic, and it's a threat to us. Let me inform you that according to statistics, about 2.5 million metric tons of plastics are being generated annually in Nigeria. Out of this, it's between 10 to 12% being recycled. That's out of the 1.5 to 10 to 12%. This statistic is for the recyclers, the producers, and so on. So, what do you think happens? So the remaining is something like 7%. It ends up in drains, it ends up in rivers, it ends up in where aquatic animals consume. So if fish are consuming plastic indirectly, we are consuming plastic. So, and you know the carcinogenous effects of plastics on humans. So that is why the agency, through the various EPR programs, like the model, we have what we call the PRO in the EPR. These are producer responsibility organizations. Companies are expected to key into the EPR program. They're expected to have a PRO for the various sectors that they belong. So the PRO is expected to manage the waste on behalf of the company. Okay, you understand? So that at the end of the day, you see less plastics, you see less waste, you see less lead, you see less all this on the environment, and then it also reduces the other pollution that you expect to find, like open burning and so on. So the impact of PRO in EPR system is very key, and it helps us to ensure that plastic plastic pollution is minimized.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Opone, please help us to talk about open burning. Some people feel that it is normal to burn their waste in their compound outside there. What is the effect of this on this?
Open burning is something that we should discard because the ideal stage or process to burn is through incineration. Incineration means that you burn it in a closed circle where there's no oxygen. That is incineration. So most of the toxic and hazardous waste are usually discarded through this medium. Now, like we said earlier on, massive advocacy is required because by the time you also burn your solid waste, anywhere you burn it, because of wind, it can also blow these particles to some places, and we have discussed yesterday about the PAPs, the pesticide pollutants. All these ones will also fly in that regard. We have also discussed yesterday about the need to be so careful about things that can be so carcinogenic in the body of human skin and all that. So all these are likely things that they will also cause. Then if you go proper into agriculture, you also see that this burning never supports agriculture. You have to do your packing and all that because the manures on the ground are also not there. Now, you agree with me again that by the time you finish burning, the ashes, where do they also go to? Because you can't also burn the ashes. So then you also discover that you have not also done anything. By the time the water falls, it will also wash it away into the nearby water body. Some will come as wind or air that will breathe, and again they're also going to cause some health challenges. You understand? So there's much danger to that aspect. And when we also talk of global warming, it has to do with temperature and gases, the greenhouse gases. So you now look at that again, that when you burn, you actually increase the temperature of that environment or that ecosystem. So you are contributing to the heat. You are saying it's already high. So you understand. So those are the...
Okay. No. Thank you very much. Mr. Jimo, do you think it's feasible to get all these companies to the recycling? Can we have full recycling?
Yes. Let me start by saying that the agency, under the leadership of DG, Professor Nelson Bariko, the innovative DG, since he came on board, he has put up some series of innovations that has really projected the image of the agency. As mandated that the enforcement of EPR should commence this 2026. And what do we mean by that? We mean, for instance, companies should do 30% of their, they should recycle 30% of their product into the new production process. It's no longer the usual practice of you start from the scratch, you bring 100% new materials, virgin materials for production, but now you must have 30%. And how can we have achieved your question? By enforcing. Facilities have been mobilized, they have been enlightened, there have been series of discussions, series of enlightenment, series of programs, meetings, right from 2014 when the EPR program started. So now it is no longer a voluntary thing. It is mandatory. It's compulsory. It is mandatory. So by the time facilities get to know that NESWA is coming, everybody will key in. You key in because we want to reduce waste generation. You key in through your PRO, you key in so that at the end of the day, you're not going to be sustainable.
Okay. There was also this suggestion, Dr. Opone, that companies should be planting trees. What are the advantages of tree planting?
Of course, there are enormous advantages. We've been talking of climate change. We've been talking of global warming and all that. And the essence of that is that the environment is becoming to be hot. So meaning that the oxygen is depleting. Because if the oxygens are there, then meaning that it will not be hot. Therefore, to plant tree, most of the carbon dioxide that is out there will be absorbed by the tree, and of course the trees emit oxygen. So by the time they emit oxygen, then it gives a good ambience. It's part of the Paris Agreement that is talking about reducing our carbon and heat by 2%. 5% by 2030, 2% by 2% by 2030, and to 0% by 2050. So that is so tree has a lot of advantages, and of course you also look at where we have wind, where there's a lot of windstorms. So the trees start as abridgment to causing problems to the buildings or whatever properties around. And again, you also look at the importance of trees, maybe the perennial crops that of course you also can feed the nation through their fruits and all that. So all these are the advantages of trees. Yes.
Okay, but Mr. Jimo, do you think that companies will comply? Because yesterday some of them were saying something.
Well, it's normal for people to try and look for a way out of any situation. It is the law. You have no choice. And this, just like I said earlier, this enlightenment started in 2014. So you're talking about 12 years or thereabouts of constant publicity, awareness to inform facilities, companies of the needs for them to practice it here. So there's no way that at this stage that we are now, just like I told you earlier, now look at the volume of plastics Nigeria generates. Look at the volume of batteries, for instance. We have like 2 million plus dead batteries every year. What happens to them? If they are not properly managed, properly recycled, properly handled, you can imagine the enormous impact on the environment. So Nigeria is not going to hold our hands. In fact, this is a program that this implementation or this enforcement is something we should have started yesterday.
Okay. Let's look at the power sector very briefly before we begin to wind down. You are talking about sustainability, use of solar. Is it something that you want to encourage among the citizens?
Of course. Yeah, because it's environmental friendly, it's eco-friendly, there's no heat emission, there's no gas source emission, the likes of chlorofluorocarbons are not emitted, that is CFC, the carbon oxide, carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide, all that are not emitted. The nitrogen oxides are not emitted. Do you understand? But if you go to some thermal stations or hydro stations, all these gases are being emitted. Of course, and you look at the power, the energy saving bulbs, they go with the solar system. So instead of using a 100 watt bulb, you can use 2 watt LED bulbs. And of course, you see the lux of it that will lead to the strength of the illumination. It's also very massive. So instead of, and the greater the watt, the higher the heat. So that you are now using a 2 watt bulb, you emit lesser heat than when you use 100 watt bulb. You understand that? So when this goes globally, of course, everybody directly and indirectly has contributed to reducing the greenhouse gases.
Amazing. Is it really possible to eliminate waste?
It's not 100% possible, but at least you can substantially do well by eliminating a substantial amount. There's a model, the circular economy model. It's like if you look at the model, there's a small thing. That small thing goes on because there's also that possibility that all waste might not go through the circularity. Some might escape. So that few that escape is why we cannot have 100% total elimination of waste, but we can have a substantial amount of elimination of waste. And
So somebody referenced some guy's farm in the Republic of Benin yesterday, saying that they are end to end, they are using their waste. Do we like to tell some of our viewers some of this model?
That is integrated farming or integrated agriculture as it were. So it's actually a circular on its own, where you use the byproduct from the animal feed as manure. You understand? You have your irrigation system, you have the solar system in place. All that is coming within, and the waste from even your organic waste from the plant, you also plot it back to your ground as your soil.
So please continue.
As your soil,
right?
Yeah, as manure or fertility to the soil. So all these are things that integrated farming does. And there, you can also have a situation where you process your product there instead of also having it raw and sell. You have it half processed, you have it out processed, and by the time you have it out processed, then it becomes more valuable to the person who is the farmer who is selling it. So these are the advantages of integrated farming. And apart from that, you now look at there are teams of people working, so it encourages employment.
Okay.
It encourages employment because so many persons are involved, and with that, then the market chain is also longer. You understand? So it's of very, very good extent. The only thing is that it's actually capital expensive. It's capital intensive.
Okay. Somebody also spoke about generating power from the septic tank. That they have the reactor and they generate electricity from the septic. I think it's from refuse dump. From refuse that there is biogas. And,
yes. Yes, those are some of the advantages of just like we said earlier, there's no waste. Any waste that we think is waste is a resource for somebody else to use.
Yeah.
So it's not that the waste that we are seeing on the dump, at the dump site, the waste that we are seeing at filling dumps are useless. The reaction that takes place when waste meat compressed releases gases that can be used. Like I think there was a project that was done that methane gas was used, like biodigester and so on. So these are ways of recycling the waste, and that's one of the good things about circular economy. Because unlike before, in those days, when you dump waste somewhere, somebody will come, pack it, throw it somewhere again, and so on. And just like we said yesterday, most of the waste that were being generated by the companies before were left to the government to clear, to take care of. Now you that you are generating this product, you are producing this product, you must take care of the waste that comes.
So that's the way to go now.
So that's the way it is. And that's why they pay for the PRO to evacuate, to take care of their waste on their behalf. Which is why it is circular now instead of linear.
Your last word to viewers, what's your advice about the environment? What we need to do to safeguard?
The environment is an asset in which the good Lord has given to us. So we must also hand it over to our upcoming generation by doing everything that is quite sustainable. You understand? If you look, so people should look into green. If it's possible, we begin to build our house using local materials like the wood, instead of plastic, instead of glasses, you use wood, you use thatch houses. All those are the things. Architects would also look into the direction of the wind instead of plugging a lot of ACs or fans into the building, direction of the wind to the building, so that wind naturally will come into the house and you don't need to put a lot of gadgets, because each of those gadgets you see, either they are causing direct environmental pollution and or they are going to be part of our e-waste in the future. So in a summary, we should think green.
Thank you very much. In a summary, we should think green. And on that note, we'd like to our resource persons for today. The coordinator of nursery in the state, Mr. Larry Jimo.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. And Dr. Valentine Okoye. Thank you. And on that note, we would like to drop anchor on the program today. Until next week, when we come your way again with a fresh edition of the program. This is yours sincerely, Dari Folarin. On behalf of the team, Aki Okudero, Bukola Oladeji, saying bye for now.